It works, Stacy. It's recording. People are joining us. Welcome.
Love that Diana has her inspirational sayings behind her, right? I mean, you're
Mm.
blurred a little bit,
blurred
you're
out.
blurred. Yeah. So it's a secret that, will be revealed at some point for all the wise words that keep us all going.
There's some inspiration that we just have to dig for.
Yeah. Okay. I recently moved my kind of setup, and so like some of my sticky note wall is now visible. All the wise words
I like it.
that we
It's cute.
have.
Well, we'll just wait one more minute here as people join us. But welcome to Allie and Dylan. Thank you so much for being here. It's going to be fun, I promise. It's hard not to be with the folks that we have today on our webinar. All right. Hi, Allie. Allie works with us at Learn 21. She's great. So is Dylan. Don't mean to leave you out, Dylan. Wave. All right. Well, I will start us off. I'll give a quick introduction and I'll turn it over to our wonderful presenters to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So welcome everyone to our webinar on building collaborative networks and educational technology. I'm Erica Shoemaker. I am the advocacy co-chair for the EdTech Leaders Alliance, and I am particularly excited for today's webinar. We are joined by Laura Boone, Diana Hawari. Oh my gosh, Diana, I didn't practice your last name.
Hawari. That's all right.
Hawari, I'm so sorry. And Emily Marshall. All of them are EdTech leaders in Arizona, where I also am based. I know that EdTech Leaders Alliance does a lot in Ohio, but occasionally we get to bring in EdTech leaders from across the nation to learn what they are doing. I'm particularly excited. Not only are we all from Arizona, but these ladies on this webinar have been so kind to me. Once I knew who they were and met them, they reached out to me. They invited me to sessions that they're leading, to conferences, to things that they do, and instantly I felt a part of the Arizona EdTech community as soon as I got to know who they were. So when we were putting together our webinar series, I was like, we got to get the Arizona ladies on here. They do an incredible job of building community, of welcoming people into their community, and I love what they're doing. And if every state could do this, it'd be a wonderful place to be an EdTech leader. So I'll turn it over to y'all to introduce yourselves, and then we'll kind of get underway with how great you are at building communities.
I absolutely love it. Emily, you want to lead us off and we'll go like backwards ABC? Stacy.
Sure. I don't know what's going on, but yes, my name is Emily Marshall. I came from the Vail School District, so I was in that district for 11 years as a seventh grade math teacher in various technology roles, and I ended as the assistant director of EdTech. I currently work for Pima Community College in a kind of similar serving role in career services, and still connect with Laura and Diana and the entire EdTech community in Arizona through ASTI and our Coastal affiliate.
I'm Diana Hawari. I'm the CIO of the Dysart Unified School District out in Surprise, Arizona. I was recently elected to the COSN board, and I also sit on the ASTI board, which is the COSN chapter for Arizona. I've been in the K-12 IT industry for almost 25 years, so very familiar with K-12 in Arizona, and very excited to be here today, and with my my tribe, my ladies, who I just love dearly. So excited.
I love it. I'm so excited. I just said, I think before we started recording, that I got to tamp down my golden retriever enthusiasm at being in the room with Emily and Diana, because we don't get together as often as we used to, and we are very intentional about making sure that we have those connections. I am Laura Boone. I work with an educational consultancy, Structured Shifts. My background is in education and EdTech. I started my first EdTech innovation project back in 2009, putting iPads in a school that did not yet have wireless. And so, you know, from there on, moving into how to help people integrate technology effectively into the K-12 space, and took the experience that I had there. And now I do coaching, consulting, and speaking on that topic, primarily in the education space, but also working with women in IT and entrepreneurship. So we have so much fun with it. I have, Erica, the Ohio connection. I worked in both Arizona and Ohio. And my first EdTech job was actually back in Ohio in Shaker Heights. So I was in the Cleveland area for a number of years before I got to be lucky enough to come back to Arizona too. So yeah, that's us.
Nice. I just assume anything Heights in Ohio is like Cleveland area because of the Kelsey brothers. They've
Totally
taught me
true.
more about Ohio.
Good point. And Allie's from Aurora. Oh, love it.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, I have a question to start y'all off, and then you just spit, let us know. And as things come up, I have other questions. I'm happy to jump in as we go, but just to kind of kick things off, how do you guys see like collaboration playing a role in educational technology leadership?
I can start. Don't
In
know
there.
how I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So being in the K-12 industry for so long, I remember the days we were all isolated. All the school districts, technology departments were not just isolated from the other departments in the school district, we were isolated from the other districts. So anything that was happening, anything that we were doing, we kept it to ourselves. We did not share, especially the negative, very competitive with the other school districts. We kind of worked in our own silos. So over the last couple of years, as we've been getting together and kind of bringing together the other districts in Arizona, it has actually helped us to open up to each other, since we all have the same challenges, that we get together and discuss it with the other K-12 IT leaders in Arizona, and we come up with solutions together. And it has been very powerful, very positive, at least for my department here, and I know for some other districts as well, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We reach out to each other regularly. We have a listserv where we just constantly pop in questions to each other, or what do you guys think about this? Have you tried that? I think it's turned into a big time saver, and it's also built a community where we are comfortable reaching out to each other now, good and bad. It's just been, I think, a powerful, positive change that has happened over the last couple of years.
I absolutely agree.
I'd also add or argue that it's nearly impossible to be a really good ed tech leader without having that community. And if it's not already built into your state or the networks that you have, like reaching out and building it yourself, because there's so many things coming and there's such a big world, whether it's data privacy or ed tech or AI, or there's all these things that, like, how can you do that alone? Like, I just don't understand how you can see the bigger picture and innovate within districts, which we know is tough, without having a network. It's just so difficult to do.
Right. And I think that's how the three of us really came together and started to create that space where it's safe for those kind of things to happen. Right. Like, you know, because you need somebody who's willing to be like, you know, how we talk about the leader and the first follower and that type of thing. Right. And I think watching some of the districts and some of the people and the individuals who are willing to get out there and initiate that first bit of collaboration, right? And to step away from we don't talk about that. You know, I mean, if we have a breach or something like that happens, and it used to be that you didn't talk about it, like Diana, you know, you just kind of hid. And then all of a sudden we started finding out, because of collaborative conversations, you know, Emily has this connect the dots theory that I absolutely love, right? And I think I have my connect the dots sticker. Actually, you can't see it, it's on my monitor, but it's the idea of, you know, and Emily fix me where I go in the wrong direction on this, but it's the idea that, you know, you have these little nodes, right? And where a couple of people, and they're all either working independently, as Diana was saying, or they're working in small groups. And then you start to make the connections, and then you create this ecosystem in this community, right? But it takes somebody who's willing to be the first one to take that risk. And watching the people that have been willing to do that in this space, I think, has been so amazing. And I know the idea of the collaborative, space, there's so much trust that needs to be there. And Diana and Emily and I had the really fortunate opportunity to be able to co-create the first CETL cohort, right, in Arizona. And we'll talk about that maybe later. But I think that was, you know, one of the very visible examples of where collaboration really has created something amazing and beautiful in the state that never would have existed had people not been willing to take the chance to be the first ones to be public in their vulnerability and their collaboration practices, you know. I think that's cool.
I'm curious. So I want to know more about the CETL that you're talking about, but I'm also curious, maybe you can tie these two together. Like, how do you be the first one? Like, how do you decide that that's the way to be? Or if you are the first one, or how would you encourage others like on this call who are like, I want that, I want this community. Like, how do I do that? How can I maybe be the first one or poke someone else to be the first one in these talks?
That's definitely difficult. If anyone's heard me talk before, you've heard me say this a million times, but I'm like the biggest introvert, and I don't know what happened as I moved up through different leadership roles. I guess I just realized, you know, you gotta figure it out, you gotta pretend or whatever. But I really just started reaching out to people, and I'm like, okay, I want help. And so like I would like one day I randomly emailed Laura before we were friends, and you know, said something to her. But I find that so often that happens if you just reach out. Like at one point, I just started looking up all the school districts in Arizona and looking for people doing my same job and just would email them or reach out. And a lot of people respond. And sometimes it doesn't work. And you're like, okay, well, they're not interested. And that's fine. But you also find really serendipitous things happen. You know, our friendship with Laura and Diana and I, we ended up doing amazing things together. And it was kind of just random connections that we facilitated and kept working on.
And you were so intentional about that. And I credit Emily credit. I don't know if Emily wants credit, you know, if that's the right word, because she may have created, you know, a monster here, but you know what I mean? A really positive one. So Emily, I remember watching Emily speak one time. This was years ago, but like I was watching her hold a mic and her hand was like visibly shaking as she was speaking, you know, and I don't remember how we started talking about it later, but you know, I always admired Emily. I'll tell the story about how I sat next to Diana and I was like, I'm sitting next to Diana, you know, at a meeting, like it was so cool. But Emily, you know, was talking about how she was very intentional about getting out of her comfort zone. And Emily and Diana are two of the most supportive human beings on the planet for helping, I know, me and other women to step into that space, Erica, where you are so scared and you are so uncomfortable and like literally like teeth chattering, you know, hands shaking, but you're doing it because you know that you have this, you know, core crew of people that you can go and be totally vulnerable with. And, you know, just you're so safe. But it also, and, you know, Diana, you were talking about this before about how before we got on the call, but about how, you know, you take those little baby steps. Do you want to talk about that a little bit into taking, or Emily, I think it was you both, but talking about how you take those chances, like Emily was saying, of just reaching out. Anyway, you want to tag on because you have such great words on.
So I'm a true believer in, I've never been an introvert, but I think you have to have the confidence, or at least tell yourself the worst they're going to do is say no. That's it. And it's not painful. It doesn't hurt. It's just no. And you move on and you keep trying. I always say, just ask the question, make them say it, make them respond. And so I think that, that's the key is, yes, you get nervous, or yes, you find a challenge for yourself, like speaking in public and all of that. The worst case scenario is not that bad. It's not. And I think that as long as you can talk yourself into rolling with it, like I've been told no many times. And what happens is you reach out to 100 and then you find your 3. You find your powerful, strong 3 that that you connect with, and you can do anything. And I think we are lucky. We are so fortunate that we found each other. Because we feed off each other. All 3 of us, I think, are completely different personalities, and I think that building this community of the 3 of us has benefited all of us because we can build from each other. I've learned great things from Emily. I've learned great things from Laura. I've learned things about myself that that I didn't realize, and I'm so grateful for. And I think by forming that and finding, we always talk about finding your tribe, finding your people. I think that's what has enabled us to do great things. And I do think they're great things for Arizona. And I'm not trying to be, you know, toot my own horn too much, but I do see the positive change in K-12 IT leadership in Arizona over the last couple of years, which sometimes it takes 10 years, but I've seen it. I mean, I'm talking within like the last 2 years. And I, as somebody who's at the end of my career, I feel like this is a good legacy to leave. I'm proud of the steps that we made, and I just hope that it continues moving forward, because I think we've broken some not glass ceilings, but we've broken some boundaries that we used to keep. And I think by breaking that, we are building new leaders and building more confidence. And I don't see us going back to the way it was, which makes me just extremely, extremely proud, and which makes me love these girls like crazy.
Is anyone else crying? Like, I'm tearing up, and I am going to join Emily in the Uber introvert club. Like, Diana is our representative extrovert, because I'm with Emily. Like, you know, I'm an incredible introvert. You could put me like on a stage in front of 1,000 people. I'm totally comfortable. You ask me to go to happy hour and talk to people, and I'm like hiding in the bathroom, you know? So yeah, Emily, I interrupted you. You were about to say something.
No, just adding on to what Diana said is, we found like a group that's been great for us personally, but like Diana said, it gives you the courage or just like the room to dream and do things. And Laura mentioned it earlier, our CETL cohort, and I don't know if this is a good time, but it just kind of fits in that not only did we have like a core group that impacted us personally, but we came up with the CETL cohort idea, right? So in Arizona, it started with 2 CETLs. I think Diana, I don't know if you were the first or the second, I can't remember right now, but from Diana
Dr.
and one of the
Benham was
first,
the first, or Dr. Watt was the first.
yeah, so we had this idea where like we saw the value in the CETL certification and the power of it. And so just the 3 of us dreaming it up together created a cohort. And I think we ended up getting, was it 20 people certified last year? And we just dreamed it up on our own and like had a little bit of support because, you know, we're all part of the COSN chapter that gave us like that, I guess, structure around what we did. But that was amazing. And that was like so
20 on
powerful, the
the
people in the
first
cohort.
try. First try.
Yes,
Right.
that's the
Amazing.
crazy, right? Everybody, yeah. Like,
And yes, that impacted all of those people at their own districts, built on the power of like what, our friendship built all those other, strands in other districts.
And they were all growing leaders. I'm sorry, Laura. They were all of those, everyone that was in that cohort, the ones that have their CETLs, they're all growing leaders. They're not on their way out, they're on their way up. And it's just tremendous that happened. I'm just very proud.
it's incredible. And knowing when we went to build it out, when we were creating the structure, there were pieces that I really want to mention. One, we reached out to Mike in Ohio. And so we reached out and collaborated and connected with our resources that we knew were available, around the nation. Eric in Kalispell, Montana, he actually, the idea didn't come from, but it kind of sprung from when Emily reached out to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about getting my CETL. You want to do it too? And I was like, I guess so. You know what I mean? And we both saw the value. So I think Emily and I might've been are we 3 and 4, Emily? So I think it's Michelle, Diana, right? And so we were, go ahead, Diana. No?
No, I think you're, well, not that
4 and 5.
but yeah.
We're 4 and 5,
yeah.
but either way, doesn't matter. Yeah. But then the way we did it was we were studying, and then we said, you know what, we need help. And so we reached out to other states to find out. So again, it's the consistent concept that we are risking being vulnerable and taking the chance, like Emily said, sometimes, and Diana said, sometimes people say no. When people say no, I cry. I freely admit it. I will cry every single time, but I do it privately, and I text Emily and cry a little bit with her, and then I come back, better and stronger for it, because I made it through alive. But the idea that we definitely reached out, and then the 2 others, and then the other key, 2 other points in here. One, when we talk about the CETO cohort, the most important piece, in my opinion, is the networking piece, that we make sure that we integrated. Like collaboration, connection, and networking was 100% the top most important part of the experience that we put together. Content, super important. The networking and the collaboration and the connection was 3,000% why they all passed the test, in my opinion. And when we get to talking about the idea of how virtual collaboration makes this possible, I want everybody here to know, like Diana and Emily and I literally talked about the last time we were face to face together was last June. So everything we do, like we don't live near each other, and we still make sure that we are connecting and collaborating all the time. And everybody in the cohort was virtual as well.
I want to add on to what you hit on about collaboration, because I don't know if we mentioned it yet. So it's not just the collaboration that was built between the districts here in Arizona. Through COSIN, we have collaborated with other states. So we've built those relationships, so you can reach out to, other people like us in different states, and they respond, and it's just brought the world so much smaller. We've also collaborated now with Homeland Security, the FBI, the military. I mean, we have connections now to reach out to local representatives of those departments. I mean, 2 years ago, I didn't know Homeland Security, representative. I didn't have someone to email. So I think collaborative has even built beyond, our collaboration has built beyond the state of Arizona. I think now our worlds have just gotten smaller. I will say for the CETO cohort, that world has gotten smaller. It's just between the people in the cohort. It's so funny that we don't see each other in person, but when we do, it's like for a family reunion. It's hugs. It's on a personal level, and that's just amazing. Since none of us work together, we are not in the same buildings together, but yet when we do get together, it's warm, it's comforting, it's collaborative. It's just nice. It's a whole different place than where we were years ago.
It is neat. It's so fun. You're right. And that's such a great point to make. I think and if you asked us why, and I'm going to speak for all of us, I think it's because every single move is intended to put the people first, right? And to create that trust and to create that safe space. And like, once we've done that, we can do the rest. Right? But every single time I've tried to fast track something in the interest of efficiency or time, it's like, blown up on me. And every single time we've taken the time to, and Emily's laughing because she's been in the meetings where I've tried to do that, where I'm like, we got a lot to do. We're skipping right by. And then everything just, that's when I end up crying at the end and, privately at home on my couch with my dogs. But the idea that every single time these women make sure that people come first, these women, is it okay for me to, these ladies, it's always the most important thing. And I think that's in EdTech, it's so easy, like, to sit in the space of, we've got so much to do, right? And things are happening so fast that, we just got to focus on getting things done. And everybody in this area, the putting people first is what's making it successful. Diane, I love that you mentioned the, Homeland Security. I never even thought about that, but you're right. Those are relationships that didn't exist. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you guys, just being a little bit working in Ohio, where they have the most CETLs in Ohio, there is talk that Arizona's trying to give Ohio a run for their money in CETLs. And I think, like, talking about your first cohort, like, I think there's momentum after that, where people become a part of a community and it spreads across, like you're talking about, and builds different relationships across places you never even thought possible, like the FBI.
So cool.
Security. It's so cool. And I'm curious, I know that you guys spent time talking about the CETL cohort. We all win, yes, Stacey.
Yes.
Many ships rise the tide, as they say. So Arizona giving Ohio a run for their money is that everyone's winning because everyone's becoming a CETL. I just became one this year. I count for Arizona. Sorry, Ohio. So I'm curious if there's other moments in your professional network has made significant impact on your work and what you're doing. Either individually or collaboratively as a team.
One thing that pops to the top for me is I kind of mentioned this earlier that it's really hard to do this job without a network. And I think that comes to mind for me in things like data privacy and data governance and all of these things that are happening. When you're in like the world of a school or in a district, it's very easy to focus on like the first thing at hand, right? And for a lot of people right now, that's AI or that's getting teachers to understand how to use their LMS or those like things that are important. But there's a lot of bigger things too that if you don't have a collaborative network, maybe you don't even know about, right? Like there's so many people that still have no clue that data privacy is a thing, which is scary, but it's true. And so for me, I think being able to have that bigger picture and bring it back to my district and to help advocate for the things that need to happen to keep our kids safe was a huge aspect for me and something that I really hope they can continue on, you know, after I left that district. But just seeing the bigger picture, COSIN, I'm on the EdTech Innovation Committee for COSIN, and it's my favorite thing I do, you know, all month, just because you get that bigger picture and perspective from people all over the United States and all over the world. And I don't understand, even as an introvert, how I could be as effective without having that network.
Can I tell one of my favorite COSIN stories? Just it kind of relates. So, been a COSIN member for forever, for like 20 years, but 2 years ago. So we're working closely. We're trying to get E-rate funding from the FCC for cybersecurity, and COSIN reached out and said, "Can you contact your Congress person, because FCC is going to be out in front of Congress? So can you contact Arizona districts to get some justification for why the FCC should release funding to the E-rate project or the E-rate grant for cybersecurity?" So I reached out to, I said, we have that listserv, so to all Arizona CIOs, and they all gave me the justification, and we created a letter and we sent it to our congresswoman. And I was watching Congress, the FCC director in front of Congress, and our Arizona congressperson asked the questions from the letter that the Arizona CIOs wrote. And I was just like dumbfounded, like, oh my God, that's our question. It's being asked. Congress is asking, you know, the FCC director this question, and it was like goosebumps. And I don't know why it made the nation become so much smaller, and I felt so much a part of it. And I think that all of us in Arizona should have felt so much a part of what's going on nationally. It was proud. It was just like I'm you know, I'm patriotic, but this was more like, oh my gosh, we are. Our words are getting heard at that level, and I think that was huge. And it's my favorite COSIN story, because I always feel like COSIN gave us that opportunity to be heard at that level. So, and because we had that collaboration, I'm going to tie it back in. I was able to reach out to Arizona. So it wasn't my question. It wasn't Emily's question or Laura's question. These were the questions that came from all over Arizona, from leaders, tech leaders all over Arizona. And it was exciting. It was good. It was, I mean, it was just amazing to me that occurred, and to see it on television. It's just amazing.
I have chills from that.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I can tell you about an impact for me in the collaboration is right around the time that we were developing the CEDL cohort and meeting with other CIOs across Arizona. One of the things that happened was that the trust in Arizona, which is the provider of our cybersecurity insurance, put some requirements on all Arizona school districts to have certain things in place. Like you have to have your antivirus, you have to have an MFA, you have to have a schedule for your end of life software, all of these things. And they only gave us a small amount of time to implement all of these things. At the same time, Homeland Security also got a grant to provide a lot of these applications to us. So as Arizona, we are all looking at the same requirements. We are all looking at the same softwares. And to a lot of those, they were new to us. So where this collaboration really impacted me and all of us was we started meeting on a monthly basis as an Arizona K-12 leadership group to discuss, what are you doing about this? What challenges are you having, and how did you fix it? So that we were not all isolated working in our own islands. I could reach out to a neighboring district and go, okay, where are you at with this implementation? This is where we're at, and this is where we got stuck. And then they would tell us, and then somebody else would come in and say, this is what we did. That was huge. And that allowed a lot of us to actually meet that requirement deadline, which I don't think we would have if we did not have that collaboration. It was just a huge endeavor that was not by choice. It was kind of placed on us with a short deadline that I just don't think we would have been as successful as we did. So that's a huge impact, I think, to technology in K-12 that occurred and was successful because of the collaboration that was built.
And you took something that was what I think is so amazing about what you did there, Diana, is that you took something that was a requirement that I'm not saying people were like, it was one more thing. We always talk about one more thing on our plate, right? And I'm air quoting it, even though it's completely true. You know what I mean? She took something that was one more thing and turned it into something beautiful, collaborative, connected, and continuous, right? She created this, or, everybody together.
We all
created she spearheaded, and everybody's created this space where it's a safe space. So we go back to it being a safe space, right? It's very intentional that that there's, it's not a secret club, there's not a handshake, but it's definitely a space where everybody knows that their story is safe. They get together and speak about what's going on, and it's a no judgment zone. It's a space where, nothing is going to leave the room type thing, except for stuff that's going to serve everybody. And I think that's really cool. I love that. And you know what I love about all that? Like one of the kind of takeaway things to me is that being super intentional, I think it was almost accidental with me, Diana and Emily, in my opinion, but be super intentional about connecting with people who think totally differently and come from a completely different lens, right? Because each one of these questions, Erica, each of us is coming at it from something different. Like, we were talking about sharing a moment. Like my moment I'm thinking about is I'm gonna, give props to, we have a Elevate Women's Leadership Day coming up in April. It is the first time that we've ever done this, where we're literally getting together 50 women in Arizona, education, IT, and entrepreneurship, right? It's the idea that these women leaders are getting together for a day of like learning, connection, and fun, right? And honest to goodness, like there is no way on this planet that this day could have happened without connection and collaboration. Because, we have amazing speakers coming in. We have the just powerhouses in Arizona, education, IT, and then entrepreneurs coming in as well. And there is 100% of it that is happening because of the power of collaboration and connection. The planning committee, like if you go on LinkedIn, and I've been like shouting out the planning committee, from different districts, and then also from some of the partner vendors are supporting as well. But again, it's all about how we're all looking to elevate leadership in the K-12 space. And I was telling the story earlier about how a few weeks ago, I was positive this thing wasn't going to happen, right? Like I'm putting this face on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm totally failing, blah, blah, blah. And I got on a text chain with Emily, and Emily was so supportive and so positive and so helped me remember like who I am, and that, and what we all bring to the table, that, I put my big girl pants on, and got back in the game. But this day I'm so excited about, we're sold out. Like it's in a month and we're sold out. And
you have to turn people away now.
You can't be in our community.
But that's phenomenal for a first time conference.
Awesome.
That's phenomenal.
Yes. And I just literally, Sapani just said, are we really sold out? Sapani Tipke, we are really sold out. Absolutely. And that's the good news and the bad news around it, right? It just means we're going to have to do another one, Yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to let our participants watching know too, if they have questions. There's a lot of great information and a lot of great experience that we're hearing here. If you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat as well. And as you're thinking about those and putting them in the chat, if you would like to, I have kind of one more question for y'all, and then if there's audience questions, and we'll kind of work towards wrapping up here. But what advice would you give to educators and leaders looking to expand their professional networks? And I think you've already given some advice, but if you could distill it now, now that you're being asked the advice question, what would you tell people looking to expand their networks?
I can go. I would say do your research. Like, so what happened for me was being part of joining ASTI, which is our COSIN chapter, allowed me to meet people that were in my same in the K-12 technology industry. And that's how I met Laura and Emily. Had I not done that, had I not gone, I don't know if I would have met them. So I think if you're, look for like a COSIN, look for a group that's established that has people like that have the same challenges that you have. And like I said, you might introduce yourself to 100, but really click with just 3. And but that's what I would say. I know it's hard to just reach out directly, but if you don't feel comfortable reaching out directly, I would say find your local group and connect there first.
Kind of another version of that of just putting yourself out there. I guess just putting yourself out there, whether it's speaking at a conference or anything else. It was, I hadn't been on the EdTech Innovation Committee long, and I was going to my first COSIN conference, and they asked if anyone wanted to help present, a session for that committee, and that's how I got to know Stacy better, and just connections there with, commonalities we have with our kids and things. You just build so many connections, right? And like sometimes our job can be so isolating, and it can be frustrating because change happens so quickly in schools. And so every connection you build where there's a commonality or like, reassurance that you're not alone is so valuable on those days that are hard at work. And so, if you're an introvert, put yourself out there and present at conferences. If you're, regardless of what you are, just keep building connections wherever you can.
Go to the networking events, right? Do that, make sure. And I think my big takeaway is the idea of being willing to be uncomfortable in the interest of growth, right? Just like I talk about, like sit in that and know we can actually make that like neural connection between the idea that we're uncomfortable means we're growing. Right? It doesn't mean you're unsafe. It doesn't mean anything bad is happening. It means that, if I feel that icky feeling like in my stomach or in my throat, that's a good thing, right? Like we learn to celebrate that because it means that, we are becoming more than we are currently. And when we're our like best and favorite selves, then that's how we're helping other people. And I think that's one of the things too, right? If we're not, we will do things for others that we won't do for ourselves. And if we're stretching ourselves in the interest of growing so that we can serve others, we're going to take chances and we're going to take risks. And, I think understanding that, like, Diana said, you reach out to 100, you get 3, like 3 is beautiful. Like there is no way I wouldn't, wake up and go to work every day if there weren't Dianas and Emilys in my life, So I think that's really key. So really being comfortable with being uncomfortable, like so comfortable with it, your feet are like, your toes are pruny from it, So Stacy has a good question.
Yeah. So Stacy asks, in building your network, have you intentionally created mentorship structures to support new members? And if so, how?
I think we've talked about a more intentional mentorship program, within our COSIN chapter. But speaking a little bit more generally about that, one of the things I'm really passionate about is just the value of leadership and the fact that leadership is I think with all the things we can't control in education, that's the single biggest thing we can control that's going to impact the entire system, right? So I've always been really passionate about mentoring the people that I work with and making sure that people know, regardless if you're in a positional leadership, the title bestows upon you that leadership, you're a leader, right? Leadership is just about influence, and we all have influence. And so the sooner I feel like we can get people to take on that like idea that they are influencing everyone around them and to own that and to live in it, it's it just helps to everyone's growth, right? And so that's something I've always been really focused on, is making sure, regardless of whether your title bestows upon you leadership, that you view yourself like that and that you carry yourself like that. And so whether it's books or podcasts or conferences, I'm always looking for ways to support the people that are around me and the growth that they're looking for.
And anybody who has worked with or, reported to Emily, the way they speak about her as a leader tells magical tales, right? Of the way she grows and develops the women and the people on her team and that work with and for her. And I will say her leadership has helped me, because we lead up, down, sideways, right? And so that lateral leadership is just as essential as the vertical relationships, right? And the way that we behave models for others, what best practices are. And for me, the cool thing about the Elevate conference is, to me, it is a absolute manifestation of the intentionality of, maybe the informal mentorship structures. And I think what Stacey's saying, that's our 2.0, right? That's our next step, is that it serves us and everybody else for us to create those spaces. One of the coolest things about the Elevate conference registration is that the leaders are bringing, the CTOs, they're bringing their teams. They're bringing their administrative assistants. They're intentionally going out and looking for the younger women in the space. And then also what we're doing is we are sponsoring part of the proceeds of the event. I know I'm talking about it, but I'm talking about it anyway, are going to support a program called House of Cheer, which is a girls mentorship program in grades 5 through 8. And their motto is be your own cheerleader first so that you can cheer on the next girl. And so we're doing that. And we're also sponsoring and supporting a esports team that has most of the participants are girls, and they're going to come in and talk to the adults that are going to be in the room. So we have this whole vertical experience that we're creating. And so that's something foremost, Dave, that I think got created out of the informal work that we're doing. Diana, what do you think?
I was just going to say, I think that as leaders, we have a responsibility to mentor. At least I know that we feel we have a responsibility to mentor those that are up and coming. It is our responsibility to find those leaders and say, you were one that I could see growing in this position, and let me help you get there, because they might not even realize the potential that they have. But being in the industry for so long, we can, you can tell who are going to be your next leaders and who's not. And I think we have a responsibility to help them, to point them in that direction, to let them know that they can do it. That was a big part of the CETL cohort as well, is, CETL is the leadership certification. It's not a classroom, it's not even a site, it's a leadership certification. And I would say, 90% of the people in our cohort were coming from the site level, classroom level. And this opened their eyes to oh, I could become an IT leader. And it built that confidence. And to have 20 of them pass, those are 20 future leaders. I mean, I know that my first idea of mentorship was, of course, women, because there's never enough women in this industry. I have met some spectacular male leaders that are up and coming leaders that are I just clicked with, and I agree with everything they're doing. So we talk a lot about women, empower women, but we also need those men to support those women and those powerful women, and to work together and as leaders in K-12. And so I think it's just a responsibility that we feel that we need to pull people up out of their comfort zones and say, hey, you have that potential. Let me share, it's not even knowledge, it's experience. Let me share my experience with you to help you see the potential in yourself. That's all. I think that's our duty, our responsibility, is to share our experiences.
Yeah.
I think, were you going to add more, Laura?
I always have more to add, right? There's always so much. And especially with these two, because what I wanted to tack on, I was trying to decide whether to keep my mouth shut or not. I was on a webinar with Diana last year. I think it was a year and a half ago or whatever. Remember when we were talking with Amy Trout over in Washington and Lauren Owens over in Agua Fria, and we did a across the decades type thing, right? And Diana and I are on one side of the decades, and Amy and Lauren are on the other, on a different side. And the conversation was fascinating. And this is going to go back to women, but it's talking about the experience of women in the IT space and how different it is. And watching Diana and Lauren talk, right, throughout, like Amy and I were there, but Diana and Lauren were talking, and just to see the different experience that Diana had, like Diana, paves the way for Lauren, right, to be able to do the work that she does now. And I'm using them as an example just because it came up, you know what I mean, in the conversation. Like Diana's, and I, our first experience coming into education in IT was like, we were the only women in the room for the most part, right? Like we never had to wait for a bathroom at a conference for years, that's always my joke. And so, to see that visibly demonstrated by the people that are coming into the space now, or who have been in the space already for 10, 15 years, but their experience is different, you know what I mean? Because of the work that's been done. Like, I didn't know we became like an historical anecdote already, Diana, but I guess that happened. You know
Oh yeah,
what I
I
mean?
would tell some stories from the 90s, and the younger people were shocked. What? That was said to you? That happened?
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, that was daily. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation,
Yeah.
Erica. You can invite us back for that, and we'll tell all sorts of stories, right? Emily,
Take
all
two.
of us can. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I feel even more inspired than I did before. I knew you all would be great, and I was right. Um, but I am just so appreciative of you and your time and your experience, and just gifting us with that time and experience today. So thank you so much. I did want to share real quick. I put in the chat our oh, there's a question in the Q&A. I missed it. Thank you, Stacy. I will read that in just a second before I forget. So I put our website in there. If you guys would like to attend any of our upcoming webinars, you are welcome to sign up for them there. They're listed there. I also wanted to mention ETLA Unplugged is the first Friday of every month. You ladies are welcome to join us, by the way, where we are trying to build that community across EdTech leaders and have those conversations happen. So you can find all of that information there. And then the last thing I wanted to say real quick is the recording for this webinar will be in our newsletter, The Vibe, which comes out next Tuesday. So if you're not already getting that, you're welcome to sign up. I just put the link in the chat. And then we're going to end here with Allie's question of what advice do you have for educators or tech leaders who want to become better mentors or sponsors within their professional network? So they want to grow those skills themselves. What advice would you give them?
My advice would be tell your stories. Every opportunity you get, share your stories. Don't be afraid to share, because somebody always connects with you. I have, as these guys know, I have a lot of stories, and a lot of them, I don't come off in a great light, but I share them, and that helps. There's always somebody who can relate to one of your experiences. And once you have that connection, it's a lot easier for that person to reach out to you, to ask your opinions or communicate with you, which then helps build that mentor relationship. But that's my feeling is just tell your stories, even if they're funny or silly or you don't come in a good light. Like I said, somebody will connect with you, and that's been very helpful, I think, for me.
Yeah, and connected, I would say just the human first aspect. There's so many stresses and things in our world, but I always come from the place of like, I care about you as a human first, right? I don't care about like, if you decide to leave our district, if you, whatever it is you decide is best for you, I'm going to connect with you and, and appreciate you as a human and support that. And people know, right? It's just like when you're a teacher, kids know when you care and when you don't care. Everyone's like that. And so when they know you care authentically about them as a person, they let you in more. And so then you can do more of the formal mentorship or structured mentorship to help them grow too.
And it's helpful for us too. It's not just one way, once we connect, now we have a connection also.
And I think it's going to sound trite and corny, but like the assumption of good intent takes us so far in a world where everything is moving so fast, and it's so easy to misunderstand a text. It's so easy to misunderstand an email. It's so easy to, assume something not great, like coming from the space of the assumption of good intent, like they're a good person, they have good intentions, I must have misunderstood or something like that, or, and just being genuinely kind just goes miles, right?
For
Right.
sure.
Yeah. And then read, listen to books, podcasts, whatever it is. I highly recommend the yearly Audible subscription if you're an Audible person, because I just constantly am listening to something and constantly learning to be a better mentor and leader.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, because I know I bring this up a lot if anybody's ever watched any webinars I'm on. Laura is the first person that taught me to breathe. And I know that sounds silly, but it has taught me a lot to be present in the groups that you're in, be present in the conversations that you're in. If you're in a session and you think, oh my gosh, this is silly, don't be on your phone. Actually engage, because you will take something away from it. Maybe not the whole thing, but something that is helpful. And like Laura has definitely been my mentor in, peeling me off the ceiling and teaching me to be present and to just breathe through whatever I'm going through. And I believe me, 5 years ago, I would have gone, that's ridiculous. It is now part of my everyday life. And it has definitely helped me to be a mentor, to want to be a mentor, and to, stop, smell the roses, like I think I do have something to offer people that are up and coming. And I just need to stop and breathe and be present. And
Nice.
that's all.
Diana, can I just add, like, I love what you just said. Well, I actually love the entire webinar, so don't take that. That was just the one thing. Love the webinar. I bought a Remarkable paper tablet, which is a really expensive notebook, but it's digital. Not because I love to write things, but because I wanted to be more present when I was in meetings and in sessions and with people. And I often have my computer where I'm taking notes, but then I see an email come in or I see this come in. And so then I'll start to multitask. And then the next thing I know, I'm sitting in a room and I don't know what's happening. And so I carry this Remarkable tablet with me when I'm in sessions. And in meetings, and so that I can just take notes. I can convert them to text and have them in my computer later so that they're easily accessible to me, but I have no other screen. It doesn't get the it doesn't have there's no other apps in it. And everybody's always like, oh, you can get a writing tablet app on an iPad. And I'm like, that's not my point. My point is that I literally just have a notebook. It is digital, but that I can save things. And it's made a tremendous difference in how much I'm able to process and really pay attention to how people are interacting in the room, not just what they're saying, but how they're interacting and how I'm able to contribute. And I really love that you brought that up. So thank you.
Well, this comes to the end of our journey today. Hopefully we'll have a webinar 2.0 that we can let y'all know about.
Sure.
I really just appreciate you and your time and what you've all brought, and Stacy too, to our conversation. As our new friend in the chat, Q, said, y'all rock. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And the recording, like I said, will be in the Vibe coming out on Tuesday. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll pass anything along to any of the ladies here. But just thank you all so much for coming and for your time and for your insights. And thank you all attendees for coming too. We appreciate you so much. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you for having us.